We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC and Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor. What's going on, everyone? I was trying to move the camera right before it was about to be put on my face, and I am not nifty enough to be able to do that. Our special guest today, Jonathan Hoppe, he is a professional of all professionals. I know he would be able to pull that off like that, and yet I'm sitting here getting stuck and caught on camera moving it. Anyway, it's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show, back better than ever after we did one show last week. We didn't have a lot going on. I was out of town Memorial Day. So were you, Richard. But glad to be back. And Rich Holdridge, how are you, man?
Thrift, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back in town briefly, and then I got to go back to work. I'm supposed to be out for the whole month, but, you know, we have what's called reset days where I can come back and do some laundry and, you know, just kind of reset and repack and then get ready. But I'm excited to talk sports. I know that, you know, we have a lot of days to talk about the finals. I mean, it seemed like it was a slow sports weekend, but it actually wasn't. I mean, there was some pretty intriguing sporting headlines that happened over the weekend, including a local team here that our next guest probably could share, because I was very impressed with the coverage and then the fan base that came out over the weekend.
Yeah, we're going to have two shows this week, so let's go ahead and get into it. This week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, we got the show right now, and our special guest, WTVM News Leader 9 Sports Director Jonathan Hoppe, is going to be coming on. Looking forward to talking to my guy, Big Hop. Love him. And then we're going to talk with Rick Beach of Kudzu Sports. So we got two great guests on for the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. At some point, I'm tired of promoting it. At some point, we're going to make an ordeal of what we accomplished this year. It's not happening today, as I've made mention. That is horrible planning by me, but you know what? I try to stay on top of things. I really do, Rich. But sometimes, you know, things fall through the cracks. And I guess right now, the graphic of everything that we accomplished this year just cannot get done. And I'm going to take ownership for it. And we're going to eventually get that thing out there to the public, because y'all need to know, right? Or maybe I just want to feel good about what we accomplished.
No, of course.
We just throw our own graphic up there. I mean, I don't care what you think about. I mean, I do care about, you know, our viewing audience and what they think about us in Georgia Alabama Sports Live. But if you know, you care that I care about putting out what we accomplished this year, that I really don't care about. If any of that just made sense, and now I'm just rambling on, I mean, how bad of an intro is this going to be, Richard? But that's why we love it. And that's why, you know, we're all natural, baby. Anyway, back to what I was saying. We got two great guests coming on tonight. And then later this week, we got a show on Wednesday. That will be predominantly about the NBA Finals, Richard. And also, we plan on having that soccer team you made mention. There's two of them. There's FC United and Columbus United, both in this area playing semi-professional soccer. But the Columbus United team had over 2,000 fans in attendance in their home opener at Connect Stadium. That is mind-boggling. And maybe we should have got on the train a lot sooner. But you know what?
I jumped on the bandwagon, Thrift, as the former Columbus Rapids announcer. I'm buying in to what Columbus United. I mean, 2,000
I'm trying to make
fans?
this happen, Richard. That's
incredible.
Broadcasted. I'm trying to get this broadcast from Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and I want Richard Holdridge to be the voice of soccer, as he was the voice for GIAA state championships this past year. The guy obviously the voice of the Rapids. Did a great job. It's a big part of your career, Richard, and I know you would love to be able to do that. We're going to try to have someone on from that organization on Wednesday's show. And we are going to, I told you this was going to happen. We're going to start hitting Summer League basketball. You got CSU team camps next week that's got multiple teams and schools in this area playing in that exhibition games, but they still, mean something to the kids. And it's a great way to develop your young talent as you head into the season. We're going to try to hit as many of these as we can. George Williams, the horse has the George Williams Thanksgiving Basketball Classic, Richard, he does every year that we broadcasted this year. He also does a summer league called the Swoosh Summer League. And we're going to be broadcasting Carver, Shaw, and Russell County. Those are the three schools we will see on Wednesday night. And like I said, next week, it seems like every school around this area is playing in the CSU team camp that are Monday and Tuesday. So we'll be there both days hitting some 7-on-7, maybe even some baseball too. And then, of course, all the interviews we're going to do with all the coaches heading into the 2024-2025 season. But we're going to start that broadcasting Summer League basketball games on Wednesday. Then Saturday, the Lions host Peach State Cats. Richard, you won't be there for that, but I'm going to have Rick Beach, who's coming on the show today. He's going to be in booth with me. Richard, looking forward to having him there. Going back to our time calling Harris County Tigers football games this year together. And then we're going to have him on for the pregame. So the pregame show that we did 2 weeks ago is going to be at 5 p.m. And then at 7 p.m. is kickoff against Peach State. And then next Friday, championship. Couldn't get bigger. Lions and Corpus Christi. Richard, we'll be there for that. We're going all out. We're going from doing pregame show before the game. I mean, we're hitting on everything that we can. We're showing Lions a lot of love next Friday, but we got a game this Saturday, 5 and 7. There's our broadcast schedule. Richard, I know you're excited about all the sports we're going to be hitting this summer. Most people thought we were going to have a dead period, like Josh Pate that said there is no off season, and we just
Absolutely. I'm excited about the Columbus Lions, the Peach State Cats, rivalry in state. They defeated them last year as they get ready for that championship, de facto championship in the AIF. By the way, they are getting their rings during the game. I believe at halftime they're getting their rings from the AIFA championship from last season. So it's just a great time to celebrate the Columbus Lions. And I had a great time at the Civic Center a couple of weeks ago as that was just a phenomenal broadcast and just a great crowd as well.
All right. Now we've done our intro. We're going to be talking, about the two teams. I don't think we're going to give our picks. We're probably going to do that on Wednesday. But we will talk NBA Finals. We'll talk some Braves, of course, for Rick Beach, and hit on any other big topics that are happening in the sports world. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our next guest. We've been trying to have him on for several weeks, and finally, the busy man he is, his agent finally cleared the ways to have him on the show. It is Jonathan Hoppe. How are you, Hop?
Hey, Thrift, that's called MMJing, what you did at the beginning of this show here, trying to adjust the camera right before they come to you. I'd say you did okay. The audience couldn't have – you should have rolled through it. The audience
should have just not said anything.
Yeah, because you were grabbing the headset, and, but it was solid. For your first try, you passed with flying colors.
Well, I appreciate that. From a professional like you, that means a lot, man. But woo, I was trying my best, and I also almost spilled my drink that no one else saw. So that was about
that could have been dangerous because you've got some expensive equipment in there.
And this is also Bear O'Brien's studio, and everybody knows who Bear O'Brien is. He's one of the biggest names in our area when it comes to media. And the last thing I will want to do is to wake the bear, and no pun intended with that, Hoppe.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that, and you don't want to mess with DJ Jones and anything like that. But hey, no harm, no foul, Thrift.
I appreciate it, Hop. All right, before we get into topics and just what you've been up to and touch on everything that's happened in the wonderful world of sports, let's talk about what you just did, though, this past week or however long you were there. You went to Europe. Talk about that experience and what was it like, man?
Yeah, it was so great. My family and I, we got to go out to Europe together for the first time. London and Paris, just a magnificent experience. Truly a once in a lifetime kind of trip. And we had a great time together. And it's always great at the end of the athletic season, the academic year, when you can escape for a little bit. I heard you guys talking about all that you did this year, and y'all did a lot. I can't wait to see that graphic, the hustle, the grind. You drove from Montgomery to Atlanta on the same day. That does not go unnoticed. People want to see that stuff. But to get out and just to be with family, because what we do takes a lot of time.
Yep.
There is no off season, but this time of year, you do get a chance to sort of stop and take a breath a little bit more often. So to go to those different countries, England and France, and just to be overseas, man, it was special. Just talk about a way to unplug, right? You're 5 and 6 hours ahead. So we had a great time, and it really puts things into perspective when you think about world history and just the different lifestyles, how big this world is, man. Our Columbus, Georgia, East Alabama bubble, it's a strong one, but it is such a small part of this planet. So it was great to go, but great to get back here as well. I've been sort of getting back tapped in. I kept up with things, but you can only do so much over there. So just hearing you guys talk about this and what's been going on, what's going to continue to go on, it's good to be back. But yeah, trip of a lifetime. To London and Paris. Had just a great time.
Yeah, that's on the bucket list for sure for me to go overseas. And you made mention, I mean, just the grind that it is to do all what you do, especially you and Tony. I mean, and Jack and Tyler. I just
no doubt
that right there. I love live streaming, but to be at 3 different places at once and then have to do something at 11 o'clock at night after you just spent 3 hours covering them. No, I don't imagine that. Now, I love what we do in live streaming, but once we get done, I'm heading home. That is when the game's in. That's when the lights are on for you, Hoppy. So I know you needed that break. I took a vacation to Dauphine. I can't say dolphin. Dauphine Island.
That sounds a little bit French there. Dauphine.
It is. So it is. And because it is near New Orleans and Louisiana and Mississippi area, it's in that Gulf range. It's like 45 minutes from Mobile. It was a nice secluded beach to get away, relax, and then reset, as you made mention. All right, Hop, let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty. There's so many topics. Richard, I really didn't even give you. Normally, we kind of like have an idea on how we want to attack this. But, Richard, you go with any topic you want to go with, and I'll let you ask the first question. So go ahead. After my bumbling mistake at the beginning, I want to allow you to ask the first question, Richard.
Thanks, Thrift. Well, Jonathan, I just want to say WTVM did a great job covering Columbus United FC. I mean, this was really a shocker that they had 2,138 fans at Kinnett Stadium. And I got to admit, as the voice of the Columbus Rapids, I was feeling a little bad that the Rapids did not come back for a third season. But this has really been great for healing, especially for soccer fans that miss the Rapids. You come out and you catch an outdoor soccer game, and I do think that Kinnett Stadium is a good venue. It's a thriving community. It's growing in Midland, and I was a little shocked at the fan support, but I'm actually not that shocked because Kinnett Stadium is a very good location, especially with that growing area up in North Columbus and Midland.
Yeah, first off, hats off to my teammate, Tony Reese. He and the crew did a great job covering that while I was out of town. And that's another thing, too. You guys know how it is. You guys work in tandem. We work in tandem with different support. So when one of us goes away, the other has to step up a little bit more, and he certainly did that. And everyone back at the station did, too. But, yeah, I've been following that leading up to it. First thought when I saw a tweet from Tony with the crowd was, wow, I have not seen Kinnett Stadium that full ever. I mean, not one time. They really packed it out. I believe the sponsor, Houston Clinic, drove in some tickets with the giveaways of a seat cushion. I'll tell you what, Richard, there's been a lot of confusion in this market about soccer because, you had the indoor team disappear, and then there was a new team announced. And we were there at that press conference, and then that new team, the Foundry, never played this season. So when you start getting stuff like that, the market gets muddied. And I believe that Columbus United FC showed everybody this weekend that this is a legitimate product. This is a legitimate team that is hopefully here to stay. And they don't have many home dates, but they have a handful of them. And they picked up a big first win on Saturday at home in front of a great crowd. A big shout out to John Dale Hester. He's one of the partners of that team. And I've been talking with him for quite a while now leading up to this. He's been optimistic. These are international players that have come from all across the world. It might sound a bit extreme, but a lot of them play soccer in the United States. They're from other parts of the world, and they come here to play in this league in the summertime. There's a team from Miami in this league that they're playing in. This is a legit conference. Tallahassee's got a team, Montgomery. There are some good destinations, and this team could be here to stay, and I'm optimistic about it. Let's see what the next few crowds look like. Boy, it would be great if Columbus, with not a lot to do in terms of sports this summer, especially once the Lions close down and hopefully win another championship this season. So, yeah, super encouraging, right, to see a crowd that big out there.
Yeah, it blew me away. I mean,
It did.
And the thing is, I love Columbus, Georgia, but there are some downfalls, and usually community support like you're talking about, it fluctuates. You got a one-time opportunity to make it and make someone catches someone's eye, and then if it goes away, it doesn't matter if you bring 30 new teams. They're just going to have that back in their head. Hey, remember that last time an organization tried to start a soccer team here, and how did it pan out? Why should we give this one any light of day? And the fact there was 2,000 people there, as you may mention about what happened with the Rapids and being muddied, I think that really has to be very optimistic if you're the owner. 2,000 fans, I would think they would have settled for 500, let alone 2,000. But you made mention about the Lions. Let's move to them now. Hop, I've been, and you're a play-by-play guy, and you work for ESPN Plus when you have opportunities to call games. Sometimes it doesn't matter as an announcer. You just can't make the game entertaining in this aspect. I love the highlight plays for the Lions, and that was awesome, the hard hits. But when you're watching a team, the opposing team can't even get a snap off. It's 82-0. They only had 2 first downs the entire game. I feel like that, when you want more fans to come out there, that's what they're seeing you're playing against, could ultimately hurt the Lions, that I think is a very well-run organization. I believe in the ownership group and the GM. I think they got top-level talent to compete against anybody. I don't care what league it is in arena football, and this is the competition they're having to go against right now. Do you think that it's helping or hurting the Lions, even though they're still winning? What's your take on the Lions, basically what I'm asking up?
Well, it comes down to, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the soccer situation, right? If you look at sports in this area, historically, there has been hit or miss support. The baseball teams that have come through here, some have done really well, some have not. Yep. And of course, that's why this Braves AA team coming to town is as controversial as it is, because people are casting doubt on whether or not there will be support. I think it's great. I think people are going to show up for the Braves affiliate, and certainly the revitalization of some of that area around the Civic Center to improve it. I think it's going to be next level. So excited about it, but could understand why some people might have some concern given the history. So when it comes to the Lions, it was not too long ago, and a little bit before my time here, but a little bit too in my first couple of years around 2021. Jason Gibson had this team in the National Arena League looking good, right? Mm-hmm. And that NAL is quite a bit of a step up from the leagues the Lions have been in since Jason Gibson left and things changed within that organization. So I think it hurts, right? I mean, we want competition. It's great that they're winning and they're dominating, but at the end of the day, you want those games to be competitive.
There we go.
And they haven't been competitive. Now, it could be worse, right? You could be in non-competitive games and losing. So people love that, and it's a great thing to do this time of year. But I think they're just trying to find their footing.
Yeah.
And they do a great job with branding, trying to get people out to the games. They do different stuff to get the community involved. But yeah, nobody in these leagues that they've played in can hold a candle to the Lions. So I expect them to win another championship this year. And then I think as an organization, much like they did after last year, they'll see what their best option is in terms of joining a new league. But yeah, I mean, I think we can agree on that, Richard. The competition hasn't been great in those leagues they've been in. They are winning, and they've got a coach that played for them that people are familiar with. So there's a lot of pros here. You just like to see them continue to progress to higher levels of play.
Jonathan, we just wrapped up the school year. Huge success, championship teams in all sports. And the season just capped off with a championship by the Brookstone Cougars, first time since 1981. And Glenwood Calvary winning championships, Central making it to the championship game. With all the success of these teams in the Chattahoochee Valley for baseball, because Columbus is known as a baseball town, really, what was your impressions of the school year with all these championships, not just in baseball, but also in the other sports?
Well, all I could think of in many instances is, how is this all going to look next year? Because when you talk about competition, right, Glenwood and Lee Scott have dominated the AISA, and now they move to the public school driven league, the AHSAA, and they'll be playing 3A in the same region as Beulah and some other schools. Honestly, that's what I was thinking about, because it was sort of a foregone conclusion with those teams that they'd make it deep and one of them would win the title. Different story, though, in the Georgia side, right? It's switched. So now you have schools like Brookstone and Pacelli that are getting more of a chance to compete for state championships. But then next year, Calvary, who wins every year, is moving to the GIAA. So that's sort of what was on my mind this year is, okay, what does this look like next year when we should be in a little bit more non-temporary pattern in terms of where these teams will play? But I think it's been great. For Brookstone to get that first title in so many years is exciting for them. And I think things are sort of working themselves out for these local schools. And, of course, hated for Central to lose in the championship series after what a great season they had. But they didn't get it done. But really, guys, it was the private schools that dominated in terms of winning the championships. We did not have a team in Georgia, I believe, in the public schools make it past the quarterfinals. And then in Alabama, you had Valley in the semifinals, Central in the championship, but no public school in the area could win a state championship this year. So that's kind of what I was thinking. The private schools did super well, but of course that all changes next year, and there'll be naturally less championships won than we had this year, just based on how those classifications are going to unfold.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's the biggest storyline heading into next year for the 2024-2025 season is now you had Glenwood, who dominated AISA, made multiple championship games, won championships in multiple sports. Now you're taking on a whole new league that has way more teams.
Glenwood opens up with Valley football.
Come on.
That. I mean, I'm sure y'all will be there.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah, that is it's so great to see that, because Glenwood has been a great program.
Yep.
Jason Gibson's name comes up again. He did a great job with them, and now Coach Nelson is building them up. So, but Valley, right? That's different than Escambia Academy. I mean, that's a 5A school that's gonna pack some punch, and they're coming to your place, and you're now in the AHSAA. That is a huge opening week game.
I cannot wait for it. We're excited about this whole year. Calvary playing the GIAA and being rivals with Brookstone and Pacelli, and then you may mention with Glenwood. I mean, it's just going to be a fun year. I know you're looking forward to it as well. And we did a lot, and we accomplished a lot this year, but a lot of that has to do with, man, just having partners like you and Tony. Every time we see you, we shout out. If you can get on the broadcast, you came on all the live shows that we've done. And same thing with Jack and Tyler. I mean, we just appreciate all you guys, because I feel like we're all trying to accomplish the same goal, which is give exposure to elite teams, man. This area is a sleeping giant of championship winning programs and coaches, and it was an awesome year to be a part of. I do got to move on and switch topics, because I got to ask you about the NBA Finals. And I don't know if we've ever really got into some basketball and your thought process on everything that's happened this year in the playoffs. I have two takeaways heading into the NBA Finals, and I want to hear some of yours, Hop. One, the Boston Celtics have the potential of being one of the greatest teams we've seen in the last 20 years, or a dud, because they've literally had to go against no top players. And it's easy to beat teams, especially when they don't have their best player. And then you have the one or sometimes two of the best players on your team. But this time against the Dallas Mavericks, they're going to be facing against the best player in the world, I think, with Luka Doncic. So you got Boston. What do we really know about them in this playoff run? And then two, the Dallas Mavericks, I think they got the best two closers in the game. And as long as they can keep it close, I can't bet against them. That's why I'm leaning more towards Dallas. And this is crazy, because no one could have told me in a million years you could rely and trust on Kyrie Irving this deep in the playoffs after what he went through in Boston and Brooklyn. And look what he's doing. Give me your thoughts on the NBA Finals and where you're leaning towards.
Yeah, I lean Boston just because they've been the best team all year, in my opinion. But I do think, to what you're saying, the pressure is on Boston, right? When you look at, they're the team that's cruised through the Eastern Conference playoffs. They have been the best team in the East all year. And the pressure is on Jason Tatum. And people love to get on Jason Tatum for not coming through late. But, of course, Jaylen Brown has been sensational in this playoffs as well. So that 1-2 punch, I think, is enough to get it done. Looks like Porzingis is going to be healthy for this finals, so they'll get him in there. But to what you're saying, I do think that Dallas is a tougher matchup for Boston than Minnesota would have been. Luka's great. You got to think he's going to turn on the heat even more in this championship final series. So they are going to be dangerous. PJ Washington, coming from Charlotte, has been a great add for them. And, you got Kyrie against Boston. So I can't blame you for picking the Mavericks. I'm going to go with the Celtics. Just seems like they're due. They've been here before. But I think it's going to be a great series. And anytime Luka, saying he's the best player in the world, he's up there. I mean, I think you're certainly allowed to say that. Nikola Jokic would probably have something to say about that. And, Giannis maybe, but Luka is right up there. And to me, he's going to be the most fun to watch in this series. I think it's going to be a great series. Whenever it finally gets started, that'll be great. But no, it's on Thursday. We've had a long gap. And I'm leaning Boston. That's my pick, but it's going to be close.
Okay, you're from around the north, right? You're from.
I'm from Charlotte.
Charlotte. So where am I getting the north from?
Well,
you went to Syracuse, so immediately I think you're from New York. Okay, you're from Charlotte, so this question really doesn't. I mean, you lived in Syracuse, because maybe you can see how people in New York feel about Boston fans. I think they are the worst fan base. I can't stand them. The Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Red Sox, they're atrocious. And I know Steve Smith's a Red Sox fan. I love him, but I hate the team he cheers for. They're terrible. And I'm going to be honest. There is one person on the planet that I would want to stick in that hostile environment, gladiator-esque environment. Like, they would like to see blood. They would probably cheer for death if they could, if that means for the Boston Celtics winning. Luka Doncic. The man does not care. And think about him going against that fan base. Does that intrigue you? What is the most intriguing storyline? Is it Kyrie going back home to Boston? I honestly think it's Luka, because he's going to be so hated in that series by Boston, and he's going to interact just like he did with a Minnesota fan and talk trash with them all game long. And that's the one fan base that most people don't want to do that to, but he's a different type of breed, Hop.
Well, I'll be careful what I say about the Boston fans. My buddy Drew Carter is the voice of the Celtics now. He's replacing Mike Gorman.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he did the road games this year, and then he'll do all the games next year. So in honor of him, that's kind of why I'm edging toward the Celtics too. But the fans have been nice to my friend Drew, who was in a tough spot replacing a legend. So I'm going to be nice to the fans, and I'm going to say that I'm not going to say anything bad about them, but they're intense. I'll say that. So I do think that is going to be interesting to watch. There's numbers out there on home court advantage, all that kind of stuff. It's not what it used to be. You know, and it's because of the charter flights, the 5-star hotels, all the stuff now that these players are getting. And some of them perform better on the road. And certainly, I don't think Kyrie Irving is going to have a problem returning to Boston. He has done stuff like that his whole career.
Yeah, he loves that.
Him and Luka have just been so good. And the fact that they're playing for a championship is awesome for that organization after they made some good moves in the offseason and at the trade deadline. So I don't think that'll be a huge thing. I just think Boston's better. I think they're a better team, but the Luka Kyrie 1-2 punch has just been so good. And there's crazy numbers out there that I heard something, I don't know where to credit it, but if they had been playing like they have been in the playoffs in the regular season, they would have won like 60 games or something.
Sheesh, probably.
Something insane. So Boston has its hands full.
They were 26-24, and they finished this season 50-32. I think they went on like a 24-8 run right after the trade deadline. So I think you're right that if they would have kept on that pace, they would have won 60 games this year. You got the hottest team in the NBA versus what I agree with you, the most complete and best team. So that in itself makes for hopefully a good NBA Finals. One more question for you, Rich. We got to get Hop out of here. I know he's ready to get back to the grind tomorrow.
All right, Jonathan, you mentioned P.J. Washington coming over from Charlotte to Dallas. I kind of feel you probably could agree with me that was the difference maker that made Dallas the team they are. They weren't the same team when they were 26-24, and they were not a number 5 seed. And yes, they did catch some breaks. Kawhi was hurt in that Clippers series, and they were taking on a young Oklahoma City Thunder team. But I do feel that the Dallas Mavericks are built to try to stop their post players because their defense with Derek Lively, the rookie, and Daniel Gafford, they have been shot blockers, rim protectors. I just don't think it's going to be easy for Boston to score points. I just think that Dallas is going to keep this. Are you
going with Dallas too, Richard?
I don't know. I think this is going to be a series that could go 7 games. And, I love a game 7. I'm rooting for a game 7. I want to see this series just lengthen, and so we can just get exciting, outstanding basketball that's edge of your seat, last 2 minutes of the game. And I'm hoping for this. And I'm hoping that Boston learned their lesson from the Golden State series 2 years ago. They were up 2-1, and they dominated those first 2 wins. And then Golden State made the adjustments. I'm hoping that Boston can feed off that crowd. And I think they got to get those first 2 games in Boston. Because you go back to Dallas, I think it's tough, especially if you split the series and it goes back to Dallas. But yeah, all the pressure's on Boston. You're right. But I do think Dallas keeps it close. I'm not ready to pick a winner yet, but I think Dallas is going to keep it close because right now they have the 2 best closers in basketball, Luka and Kyrie. You saw them in the Minnesota series. Those games, Minnesota was up after 5 minutes left to go, and Dallas was able to close it out with big-time shots. And I just don't know if Jason Tatum is that type of player that can make that big-time shot when the game's on the line and you put the ball in his hands. He's disappeared in fourth quarters. Mainly, Jaylen Brown has been that player. But, of course, if Boston does have a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, that's going to help too. And plus the hot shooting of Derek White, that could be an X factor. And then the leadership of Al Horford.
There
Yeah,
we go. I mean, that was a lot to unpack, Hop. I don't know where the question was at, but there's a lot for you to unpack there.
Richard needs a tryout for NBA TV after that.
I mean, long soliloquy.
That was a serious breakdown, but you summed it up perfectly. I really think you did. That was a great analysis of this series. You said you don't know who you're going to pick yet. Sounds like you're leaning towards Dallas. But if you change your mind, that's okay. And we'll see who of us is on the right side of this here in a few weeks.
All right. I got to ask this question. I feel like now I just lost my train of thought. The Georgia Bulldogs deciding, I have to ask it before we get out of here. One SEC question. Bulldogs deciding they're going to make their homecoming the Auburn Tigers game, which is their rival. This is not something that is, been an anomaly. It has happened quite frequently if people actually do their research. But I know fans want to take this as disrespect. Do you feel like it's disrespectful, especially how bad Auburn has been? Should Auburn fans take it as disrespect? And then if you're Georgia, why would you want to give them any ammunition before the game even starts? I felt like that is not Kirby-esque, but maybe he is so beyond the belief that Auburn has any realm of possibility at beating his team this year.
Yeah, I put almost nothing into that. I think about it in this way. One, right, this isn't high school football. I think that's the main thing that people think of is in high school, you want homecoming to keep the weekend going. Everyone's happy. You get the win. You go into the dance and all that kind of stuff. In college, it's different, especially now, by the way, because there are so few non-conference games and the SEC schedule is getting bigger. The time of year dictates when your homecoming can be based on your different institution. I don't put much to it. And honestly, for me, if I was a Georgia alum and I was coming home, I'd want it to be for the Auburn game.
That's a good point.
I mean, I wouldn't want to come back for a cupcake. And I don't think Auburn's going to be a cupcake this year. I think they're going to have a shot to at least make some noise in Athens. So yeah, I don't put much into that. And I don't think the schools do. It's a kind of a catchy headline, and it kind of makes you think, but I don't really even see it as disrespect. And I don't think Auburn needs any more motivation after what we've seen the last few years in that series. I think Auburn they have all the bulletin board material they need. They want to beat Georgia. They're tired of getting beaten down by Alabama and Georgia. They want wins in that rivalry, both rivalries. Unfortunately for them, both of those games are on the road this year. So it's such a tough draw. It's great when they're at home. And last year, Auburn played well in both of those games, had a serious chance to win both of them, especially the Alabama game. This year, it's on the road. So Hugh Freeze has a bunch of home games in a row to start the year, and then they go to Georgia. So depending on how that start goes, how they can do against Cal, Oklahoma, they'll have a chance to have some momentum coming into that UGA game.
Yeah, again, talking about excitement for the high school football, but especially college football with this new look SEC. We'll be seeing each other in SEC Media Days. Looking forward to that in Dallas, Texas.
Are you going?
Let's say we are. So we put the positivity in the air. DJ Jones, love you. But we've gone the last several years, so it would be pretty cool if we were able to again this year. Sports Vision's all over the place, man, all over the world, baby.
Well, let me tell you this: we're excited too for a little shameless plug here.
Go ahead.
ABC is getting the SEC, so on WTVM we'll have not all of these games, but we'll have quite a few of them, and we're planning to maybe do some special stuff after the game or before, depending on when it falls. And really try to capitalize on that and kind of people being tuned in to our station to see games like Georgia, Alabama, stuff like that, which is going to be huge. So it's certainly good to have the SEC back on ABC. It's been a while. CBS did such a great job with it, and I know it's going to be different for fans everyone's so used to 3:30, 2:30 Central tuning to CBS for the big game, but this year, it's different. It's not always going to be midday. It'll be later, but we'll know the windows. We just learned last week. We'll know when the games are at early afternoon, mid-afternoon, or late. most of them will know, I believe, next week. And then some of them will be flex. But we're excited about that, on top of sports overtime and all that kind of stuff. The fall is summer is here. In June, you can, take a breath. And then July, it starts to creep in your head.
Yep.
And then by the time August hits, it's go time. So it moves really quick. So try to get back to the beach, or wherever you went. Just go lay down for a couple hours. I mean, go for a walk. The football is coming.
Yeah, for sure on that. And I will say too, I know you're excited, and I'm not going to say names or anything. Just know that there's a mutual friend of ours that's going to be joining your team real soon. I know you're super excited about that because I always love working with that son of a gun.
We'll take all the help we can get.
No doubt about it. But listen, I'll tell you, IBC is going to get all the top games. So whether it's Alabama, Georgia, or Auburn, Georgia, any top SEC game is not going to be on ESPN. It's probably going to be on ABC. So you're going to have to pick from a myriad of games. So that's awesome. Definitely going to be tuning in. I want to make mention one more thing too before I let you plug everything else you got going on, Hop, because that's the point of you coming on the show. Auburn fans can't take it too with Georgia because you can live with Alabama and their dominance of Nick Saban, and you still got 3 or 4 wins under your belt against him. But even during those, I would say, mediocre to above average years of Mark Richt, you still couldn't beat Georgia. And now you got Nick Saban 2.0, so it's going to be even longer. So that's why Auburn fans, it's disgust when they think of the University of Georgia. What you got coming up this week? What's on the docket? How can everybody watch you, follow you on social media, all the great things?
Well, I'm back on TV. I got to put makeup on tomorrow. It's been a minute. It was 2 weeks ago Thursday, so it's almost been 2 weeks that I'll be absent from TV. People ask me, they say, whenever I don't get to take a break that long at all, except for once a year. Well, they say, "Are you excited about your trip?" And I'll say, "No, I'm excited to not wear makeup." That's pretty much what I tell them. I'm serious. Putting it on is not that bad, but when you get home late at night after a long day and you got to take it off, I mean, I sound so lazy, but it is just the worst.
I can only imagine, man.
Not to mention it's 90 degrees outside, and so, yeah, I got to do that.
And that's why I don't understand. I've seen you, sorry to interrupt, but I've seen you at games sometimes with makeup already on. I'm surprised you hadn't got the makeup with sweat in your eye. That sounds horrific.
Good. They know what they're doing, and it does well, even, shooting Little League Baseball in late June. But, yeah, I can feel it, like my pores are already starting to harden up. I mean, I'm just dreading, 5:30 tomorrow night when I have to go like this. But anyway, I'm excited about it. We'll get back, and we got a few different things going on. We've got some football teams, high school football, actually starting up camp, some in a creative way. So Tony Reese is going to have that tonight. Smith Station has something going on that he's going to be out at. And, of course, they're playing in our State Line Showdown game on WTVM. They'll play Shaw.
Yep.
That is on Thursday, August 22nd now. That has moved up from Friday. So behind the curtain, the Falcons will be on ABC WTVM Friday the 23rd for preseason. So Shaw Smiths will be Thursday night, 8 Eastern time on WTVM. First game for Alabama, second for Shaw and Georgia. So we're excited about that. Hopefully a lot of people will be able to watch, but more importantly, we hope a lot of people show up to the game. I think they will. It's 2 teams and second-year head coaches that are trying to make a splash. Certainly not the strongest teams in the area over the past few years, but I feel like they're going in the right direction. Early season matchup, and whenever you get Columbus and East Alabama, it's great, right? 2 public schools. We're excited to continue that after Brookstone and Glenwood last year. So looking forward to that. And then just different feature stories we're working on. Auburn baseball had a really rough season. Usually in years past, they'd still be playing right now. I've got something cooking on that. One of their guys, Cade Ballou, who's an Auburn guy, had a great season, all freshman SEC team. I was able to sit down with him and talk about his year and what's coming up, how they're going to turn it around, what worked for him, because we love when the local kids show out, and he had a fantastic year. So like you said, there's no off season. We're working on stuff, and it's our job and your job in a slower time to find the interesting stuff. So I've got some ideas. Our team's cooking some stuff up, but watch us on WTVM. We'll put everything on the website, social media, Jonathan Hoppe, Tony Reese. And if you have a story idea out there, anybody listening, hit us up, sports@WTVM.com.
All right, Hop, appreciate you. Saw our guy Aaron Lee at Cinnaholic. That's over there in Midland, where the new Publix is. It was always good seeing Aaron. He is such a soft-spoken guy, but he's so powerful in his knowledge of media. I would put him up there against anyone, but you just would never know because he's always very quiet.
Very modest.
But if you
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What is Cinnaholic?
Okay, Cinnaholic is a cinnamon place, man. You need to go by there and try it out.
I was
It's
just
delicious.
at that new Publix up there.
Yes, there's a place called Cinnaholic. I'm giving them a shameless plug, so come on, be a sponsor of ours. And I saw Aaron there, but I know
if it's a good food spot, Aaron Lee knows where to find it.
Listen, we called games GIAA with him, and every time we go to a new place, he's always trying to find the new spot. And he put me on some decent chicken fingers in Milledgeville. So love Aaron. Hoppe, appreciate you coming on, man. Look forward to talking to you real soon. And hopefully, I don't know if I'll see you on Saturday at the Lions game.
I'll be there Saturday. Y'all take care. Good seeing y'all, and get some rest while you can, if you can.
Yeah, exactly right. That's Jonathan Hoppe, WTVM News 3, News Leader 9. Don't hold it to me. Look, I knew it. I knew I was going to mess it up. I was almost. All right, let's go to break, and then when we come back, we got Rick Beach of Kudzu Sports right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox. Discounted up to $6,500 off. Chevy's full-size pickup truck, the powerful Chevy Silverado, is up to $12,000 off. And big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Plus, enjoy no payments until fall. Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC in Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor.
And we are back smiling. Thank you to Jared Hudson and Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. It's Thrift. It's Richard. And now let's bring him on. His name is Richard Beach, but he likes to go by Rick. I call him Beachy. And it's our guy from Kudzu Sports, also part of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live family. What is up, my brother?
What's up, Thrifty? What's up, Richard?
Hey, what's up, Rick?
I love having you back back with us, man. A lot we're going to be getting into with you, specifically with the Atlanta Braves, talking a little bit about that Georgia thing I was just mentioning with Hop.
Yeah.
Let's go into detail right now with what's happening, all things Harris County. You and Richard, and I'm going to let you, we didn't really talk about it. I'll let you give the analysis on it. What'd you learn from Spencer and Harris County when you did the spring game a few weeks ago, and what's happening around the Harris County land and all the sports that are happening in there, because they're excited about this upcoming year, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Pretty much from the spring game, the key word, I think same thing from last year, watching early in the year, to the physicality at Harris County. The offensive line still very physical. On the defensive side, they got to shore up some tackling and stuff, but that'll come this summer. You lost defensive end Holden Hayek and your defensive tackle and TJ Johnson. So now Bishop Adams and Josh Jones kind of have to carry the weight, without the supporting cast on defense. So some of that stuff will just get filled in throughout the season. But, on the spring game, it's what you expect at a spring game. Nothing, really stood out to you, but there's nothing really concerning. The biggest thing during the spring game was the lack of injuries. You're thankful for that.
Richard?
Rick, one of the things that it makes Harris County unique, especially the last couple of years, is their Little League team. I mean, they've really caught this area by storm. They've been featured on ESPN for the past 2 seasons. And that's where I met you approximately a year ago. I was live streaming the District 8 Championship between Northern and Harris County.
Can I say something real quick, Richard, before you finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick. I just want to say Jeremy Crosby, who is of Terry Johnson Agency, Richard, a big sponsor of ours. His sons play at Harris County Little League, and he says the best damn official in Harris County is Rick Beach.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
want to throw that out there. Go ahead, Richard.
In fact, that's where I met Rick Beach. He was officiating. He was umping behind the plate the Northern Harris County game, the game where Jacob Gilstrap hit a walk-off grand slam to defeat Northern. And that actually was an elimination game for Harris County. They would go on and win the championship on that Monday. And we had that game live streamed. And Harris County would go on, win the state of Georgia. In fact, District 8 has won the state of Georgia the last 3 years. Northern won it in 21. Harris County won it in 2022 and 2023. And Harris County wins the first 2 games in the Southeast Regional at Warner Robins. So they're 2 wins away from going to the Little League World Series the last 2 seasons. What do you think of the Harris County Little League team? Can they get to the Little League World Series? Because that is the goal. I mean, you get that close in the Southeast Regional and you're 2 wins away the last 2 years. That's got to be the goal for Harris County. I mean, what is your thoughts on Harris County this year? I know that you can't make a prediction because you normally but really, what's your thoughts on Harris County this year?
Well, I'll just say basically the last 2 seasons were kind of oddities as far as you had 2 elite teams. I guess the word thrown around now on TV is generational, but you had the coach Wade Perkle had, you had JT Perkle, you had Evans Worlsley, you had Will Dimitri, you had Caden Dimitri, you had all these guys that are now at the high school, but you had a team that was generational. But then the next season, you had Luke Gowdy, you had Jacob Gilstrap, you had Carson Vega, you had Cabot Clark. You had some of these guys that just don't come around all that often. So looking at it now, it's going to be tough for Harris County to win this. Northern has a team coached by Ray Gash this season. They've won it at 10U, 11U. They've won state at 10U, 11U. So now at 12U, it's going to be an uphill battle for Harris County to try to take on Ray Gash. That said, Northern has a good shot at keeping the streak alive for District 8, winning state if they do win district.
Yeah, and I know that is going to be an integral part for Tony Dimitri as he is trying to build a powerhouse, if you will. Let's talk a little bit about you may mention about the football team you're excited about, but basketball, you got Stephanie Ramsey Dunn, you got Tony Dimitri, then you got the softball program going out and getting Brandon Jenkins. What's the overall feel in Harris County with all the other sports? Is everyone excited? Do they think championships could be on the horizon in the near future for Tigers sports?
Absolutely. Softball starting this week, I believe, with practice. But just seeing, Coach Jenkins and his excitement, what he brings. And you got to remember, Harris County is a team that made it to the Final Four, playing for championships the last couple of years in softball.
Right.
Riley Huckleby's back. Chloe Wolfenberg is back. Your 2 pitchers are back. You just have to know that the number 1 rival just happens to be a region team in Northside with Abby Lovell as their star pitcher that's kind of carried them. But now you kind of bring Jenkins over here. He's brought in some great coaches with Derek Branch. You got Taylor Harper, then Jamie Gowdy and Terry Wingard. You got pretty great coaching staff coming in. That's what a head coach needs. Doesn't matter how good Jenkins is, he's got to have support around him. And he's brought in some great support. So the excitement levels through the roof. But with that is the expectation level on the softball program as high as ever.
Yeah, it is. And they are expecting great things, especially with Brandon Jenkins being there. Rick, we'll move on from Harris County because you're more than just Harris County. You help all things Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I made mention that you will be in the booth with me for the Lions this Saturday against Peach State. Looking forward to calling some football with you. First time since that Harris County run of this past year. And then we're going to be doing pregame as well. So can't wait. I know you've been keeping up and watching when you can. The Lions are just dominant right now, Rick, and they're on the verge of winning a championship. I know. What are you looking forward to calling and seeing on Saturday's game?
There's just the points they can score. How many can they hang up? I know this will be different than the team from, I believe, Hattiesburg that they put 80-something on because it was a semi-pro team from
Semi-pro team. Come on, Rick.
Whatever it was, they claimed online that the team was that came down to fill in.
Yeah.
But they put 80-something to nothing on somody.
Come on.
You don't expect that every game, but it is fun to see how many they could try to hang up this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Look, I'd love to hype it up and say, it's going to be a battle in this close game. But
We
reality is, what do you have every week?
It's 60-point beatdown, especially the last 2 years in the Civic Center. I mean, we're talking an average point per game victory by 50, 60 points. I mean, it's
so why say, why try to hype the game up? Let's just hype the game up for what it is. How many can Columbus score this weekend? And let's get excited about, hey, let's put the over under on just Columbus and say 70. And then when they hit 71, we have reason to celebrate.
There we go. Michael Swan, he made some incredible plays, some Sports Center level plays last time we called a game. Championships next Friday, June the 14th. Richard, you'll be back in town with me, but Rick, I'd love to get you there. Either be in the booth, do 3-man, or maybe even have you on the field and interview. I know you like doing that. Whatever, we'll make it work and definitely have you for pregame. We're gonna go all out for that. So if you're in town, so we're excited. Bulldogs. Two things I want to talk to you about, and I want your opinion on it, Beachy. One, Jaden Rashada. DJ Jones, and I'm in agreement with him, thinks that this is a huge distraction. Why is Kirby pushing him to sue another SEC school, and albeit a rival? Is that good for the team, especially for a backup quarterback right now? Because I don't think he's dethroning Carson Beck until Beck leaves to go to the NFL draft for next year. And then two, making Auburn a homecoming game. Now, Hoppe made a great point. If you're trying to make alumni happy, why would you do it against Roast Beef Tech? I mean, no one cares about that. But I will say, playing against a rival, people want to be relaxed and not have to be a nervous wreck the entire game. That's why most of the time it's against cupcake teams, so they can drink, have a good time, and it's a blowout. But if you're biting your nails the whole time and it's nerve-wracking, are you really enjoying all the festivities? And then if you lose the game too, that's another thing. But we'll start with Jaden Rashada first, and then we'll talk about the homecoming. What's your thought on that? You think it's a distraction?
Anything that Kirby Smart has going on right now, I'm not going to disagree with or question anything in his program.
Right.
I mean, you got to think, if he's pushing it, then there's a reason behind everything they do. There's nothing that man does that's on the whim. Everything's planned out. Everything has a reason. So there's something to it that maybe we don't see or everybody sees that's going on. Maybe something behind the scenes. Maybe that's, I have no idea, but just the fact that Kirby would do something that would cause a distraction. And really, I don't think they have distractions because I think their team is so laser focused on their mission this year that stuff like that's not going to distract them.
Richard, give me your thoughts on that, and then we'll talk about the homecoming game.
Well, you really don't need any distractions, especially during this time where you're trying to just get your team ready for the start of the season. You got to get them ready for that Clemson game on August the 31st. I kind of feel that Georgia's going to come into the season with a chip on their shoulder. They feel that they should have been in the college football playoff. If that game against Alabama in the SEC championship goes their way, because I actually thought they controlled that game and they just had some sloppy turnovers and Alabama took advantage. I think that Georgia could have won their third straight national championship. But Georgia is the favorites coming in this year. I mean, looking at the schedule, we know the schedule's tough. They got to go to Alabama. By the way, that's going to be a primetime game, 7:30 on ABC. And then they got to go to Texas on October the 19th. I think those two games is going to really test this Georgia team to see if they are ready to be a national championship contender. I actually think it's going to be a little bit easier this year because you have the 12-team playoff. You got to put Alabama, you got to put Georgia in there, possibly LSU. I mean, the SEC is stacked. I cannot wait for SEC Media Days, July the 15th through the 19th. And how fitting is it that the SEC Media Days is in Dallas as we welcome Texas and Oklahoma into the conference?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun. I still think it ought to stay in this area, the
Me too.
Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville area. Because
I do too.
The heart of the SEC. But we'll give them a pass into their first year where they don't have to travel that far. The next year they need to bring their butts on this side of the Mississippi.
I agree with you on that, Rick. The homecoming game.
Oh, the homecoming.
Give me your thought on it. Do you think that it could be something that could come back? I mean, Hoppe's right. They don't need extra motivation.
You look at Georgia's schedule. You got Tennessee Tech, the second game of the year, where it's going to be hotter than hell's doorsteps in Athens that weekend.
They're not doing it that early. No way.
So
Yeah.
And the next cupcake game is the week before Thanksgiving when you have UMass come in, and you're not going to do it that late. So you have that run of 8 straight SEC games. And when you look
What
at
about
Auburn,
Mississippi State, October the 12th?
but let's be honest, Auburn ain't put up a fight in Athens in a long time. They ain't scored double digits in Athens since 09. They haven't won since 05. So you're kind of thinking, okay, it's Auburn, and they played you tough last year in Auburn, but in Athens, in the state of Georgia, they haven't put up a fight against Georgia in a long, long time.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, man. Auburn, though, should use this as motivation. And, God, you're your homecoming game. That's where this rivalry is that you're a glorified homecoming game. That's what's happened. And that's what bothers me so daggone much. Now I'm fired up, man. Auburn fans, you can take Alabama and Nick Saban winning championships, Rick, but you couldn't even beat above average Mark Rick. You had so many times. 2016, you were the better team, should have won. 2015 at home, should have won. 2014 on the road, but you were the better team. You won 2013, 2010, 2009, you had the better team. 2006, don't even get me started. You're 10-1 going into that game, right in the top 5, and Matthew Stafford looks like a Hall of Famer, and you'll lose 37-15. That's what bothers Auburn fans.
It's the one that swung the rivalry. He's the one that made it.
Because Auburn had dominated during the 90s, and we're at least, I mean, that's where it was even. And then, because they had that graphic go up, it was like 49-49 and 1, and then the score was like 1 or 2 points off from how many points scored for each team in the rivalry, and then it's just gone downhill with Rick. I mean, Auburn has beaten Georgia since. We'll just go back to, I'd say, when Rick took over, 2001. They won in 2001, 2004, 5, 2010, 2013, and 2017. 6 times in 24 tries.
Let's look at 2 of those. 2001, Georgia had the ball inside the 2 and ran out of time. And then you look at the prayer at Jordan Hare in 2013.
Come on.
2 of those, 2 of the 6 were miracle wins for Auburn, last second wins for Auburn that could have went the other way. So you could easily be talking about 4 wins in the last 20 years.
And then we're just talking from 2010 after winning the national championship 2 times. I mean, this is not a rivalry anymore. And then it happened that you would have thought you could at least be 500 during, the Rick there. You were more successful with Nick Saban than you were Mark Rick. That in itself is like, are you kidding me? And now that Kirby Smart's gotten there, he's lost 1 time to his rival, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon unless a miracle happens with Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, and I've seen something before where Vanderbilt's had more success against Georgia in the last 20 years than Auburn.
I mean, they won in 2006. They won in 2013. 2016, 3 times. I mean, that's embarrassing if you're an Auburn fan, no doubt about it. Rick, last question. Atlanta Bravos.
Oh, yeah.
Richard, I'll start with you first, man. Listen, you're an optimistic guy, but I feel like it's hard to believe that you're going to be able to, mirror what happened in 2021 when not 1, not 2, but 3 moves that were made by Alex Anthopoulos turned into, as Tyler Redmond said on Sports Visions today, the NLDS MVP and Jock Peterson, the NLCS MVP and Eddie Rosario, and the World Series MVP and Jorge Soler. Now, he did make mention, I forgot about the fact that we didn't have Marcell Ozuna that year, so it was Ozuna out and Acuna. That's why you had to make so many moves. You may not have to make near as many this year. But do you think the Braves are done? They're 6 games back, 9 games above 500. They're honestly in a better place record-wise than they were 2-3 years ago when they made that run. But the Phillies are on a tear, and now without your best player, do you think it's possible the Braves are going to win it all?
I think it's possible that if the Braves get their pitching right, like, because Chris Sale has just been an absolute incredible get for the Atlanta Braves. He's back to 2018 version of Chris Sale when he won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox. Max Fried is starting to pitch like he's pitched in that World Series year in 2021. I think it's going to be hard to catch the Phillies. They're having a great season. I know they played a lot of teams under 500, and it'll balance itself out. But if the Braves can get hot, get the wild card, and maybe the tables will be turned, and they can maybe upset the Phillies or the Brewers in the first round of the playoffs, or even the Dodgers with their pitching, I think they're going to have to rely on their pitching. We have not seen the bat with Matt Olson. He has not had the season he had last season. Austin Riley has struggled. With Marcell Ozuna has really been the bright spot, leading the majors in home runs. But I do think that the starting pitching, maybe getting an A.J. Smith-Shawver up from the minors and be maybe that fourth starter. I was impressed with Charlie Morton, although he's been inconsistent. He did pick up the win against the Athletics at pitching 6 scoreless innings. But I think that you got to go get another arm at the trade deadline. Because that's what wins in the postseason. You're going to have to replace Spencer Strider. So you're going to have to go get a pitcher if you want to try to compete and try to win a World Series. But right now, it's looking like the Phillies and the Dodgers are the teams to beat in the National League. And then over in the American League, I mean, how about the Yankees and what they're doing?
Yeah, well, before you answer, Rick, too, a couple of things. You're right. The American League obviously has some pretty good teams. Orioles, Yankees, Indians, and then the Rangers too. But then you got to throw in the Dodgers, how great they've been. I don't think it's a big deal if the Braves win the division. They've won 6 straight. You want to keep that streak going. But the past couple of teams have made it not having the best record in Major League Baseball. So I don't think that matters anymore. And then also, too, when looking at this Braves roster, there's still a lot of talent on there. They still have enough hitting that, with great pitching, as you mentioned, can make a playoff run. Maybe that's the part that stings the most, is that you're getting this great year from Sale. Your Fried's been consistent. And then you throw in Strider there, Rick. You got a top 3 compared to Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz. I'm not saying they're that caliber, but that's the best staff and rotation of pitchers we've had since that era. And then on top of the historic roster that they had last year, you would have thought now with Acuna and everybody healthy, this team could win a World Series championship. And then you get the injury to Strider. I know it's hard, but try to keep me optimistic. Tyler says to calm down and breathe. And I love Tyler Redmond and the All Things Atlanta Braves, but you're also a Braves expert too. Well, what you got, Rick? How do you feel?
What's the old saying in baseball? It's not the best team in the playoffs. It's the hottest team in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just get to the playoffs. Just make in 21, the Braves won 88 games that season.
Yeah.
The 88 games, Will Smith was struggling going into the playoffs. They had the 3 hitters, but Rosario wasn't.
He turned to Mariano Rivera. But man, Will Smith was an afterthought. It didn't even come back the next year, Rick. And my man turned into Mariano Rivera during that playoff run.
And that's all it is for the playoffs. That's all you got. It's just the team that gets the hot. For the Braves, well, you're sitting fine. You're sitting fine to win the division. You're going to play the Phillies enough. Things are going to level themselves out if you're a good enough team to win the division, but you don't have to. Teams play that 2 out of 3 series. They take that momentum into the division series. We've seen it against the Braves. And making a move for a pitcher, the thing that fans got to remember, you don't need an ace.
No.
They don't need to go get an ace. They don't need a 2. Go get a 3 or a 4. Last year, the Braves got put out by daggum Ranger Suarez. Pitcher for the Phillies took them out. So you don't have to go get this ace. You have Charlie Morton, who they've been already kind of giving him extra days rest. Lopez has done really good as a rookie. You still got some young arms. You mentioned Smith Shriver. You got Waldrop coming up through the system. You got some great arms that could fill in this summer. But really, if you go get somebody to fill in that 3-4 slot, and then maybe get an outfielder, and it don't have to be a Taylor Ward. Nobody knew who some of them names were that we got in 21 until we got them. Really knew what they were all about. So, as far as, fans get hung up on names and get hung up on these big time trades. And how many times do you see a big trade at the deadline I mean, I think Fred McGriff was the last time the Braves made a deadline deal that really was the reason that pushed them over the edge.
Yeah, I'm with you. But except for that 2021 year.
Comes
But
that
you're,
big name. You know, you
yeah,
just get
no,
the smaller names the way you do it.
yeah, you're right. And making a huge splash like that, you're right about that. And it turned into a World Series championship. I'm going to try to stay optimistic, as you may mention. You just need to get into the playoffs. If you're
be real for us around here in this area, just keep us in it till Labor Day. Then football comes in, and then it's like, well, they got knocked out, but at least we still got college football.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's
go.
why Braves fans are able to lick their wounds, because they're Georgia fans watching national championships.
Now, you Auburn fans, it's a little bit harder to swallow when the Braves get knocked out.
Yeah, good point on that one. I will say, too, Atlanta has the capability to stay competitive, and we'll see if it pans out, and we'll watch how everything what it turns into this year when it comes to Major League Baseball, because Jesus, man, we're only in June. The season only until September. You still got 4 freaking months. I know you got college baseball, and by the way, the Georgia Bulldogs are one Super Regional Series win away from making it to the World Series. That guy Condon, what's his name?
Charlie Condon.
Condon. That guy's been.
He's been on tear.
Runs. I'm like, man, in 50 games, 60 games. That's pretty incredible, dude.
Yeah, they got NC State this weekend. He's got 36 home runs.
Come on, man.
So he'll probably get 1 or 2 maybe this weekend. You have to, if they pitched to him. You saw this weekend they pitched around him.
Yeah.
But it's funny when they won it in 2008, won the Super Regional last time they went to the College World Series. NC State's the team they beat in the Super Regional in Athens. And you remember?
Yeah, they had Gordon Beckham on that team.
Yep.
And who was the best player for NC State that year?
Who's that?
Russell Wilson.
No, my God.
That's right. He did play baseball.
Yeah, he was baseball for NC State then, and he was their superstar two-way player that everybody talked about. And Gordon Beckham and Rich Porthras and Adam Fuller, Columbus High School. He was on that team in 2008 that went to Nebraska.
I tell you what, Rick, that
almost won it. Should have won it.
That was a special year. They should have won it. They won that first game against Fresno State. Fresno State was a number 4 seed. Well, that would be the equivalent of a 15 or 16 seed winning the NCAA tournament in basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into the regionals. They were actually playing in a tough regional, and they were able to just have that incredible
I
run.
wouldn't say 15 or 16, but I get what you're saying. I would say more like a 10 or 11. But either way, they choked. I remember they were up like 6 runs in that second game, ended up losing.
This is Georgia year 1 with the head coach Wes Johnson, so it's looking pretty good that his tenure's in a good trajectory going up.
How about the SEC in college baseball? They're just dominating college baseball. LSU, Tennessee, Florida.
I mean, and I'm telling you, it just means more. But
it does. It does mean more.
It just means more.
Yeah,
we can do sports year round now. High school baseball. The high school players in Georgia and Florida and Alabama, they just play baseball all year. Up north, you stuck inside. You could do workouts, but you don't get live pitching 24/7, 365 like we do down here. We can run 7-on-7 camps year round. So, down south, Florida, Texas, and out in California, that's why the high school talent is so good at so many sports.
I'm with you. Warm weather states produce the top level talent. Rick Beach, Kudzu Sports. Thank you, brother. Follow him on Facebook at Kudzu Sports, and look forward to seeing you on Saturday. He'll be on the call with me for the Columbus Lions. All right, thank you, Rick. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show, talk some NBA Finals very quickly here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show.
You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox. Discounted up to $6,500 off. Chevy's full-size pickup truck, the powerful Chevy Silverado, is up to $12,000 off. And big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Plus, enjoy no payments until fall. Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
I'm smiling right now as we're wrapping up the show. NBA Finals, as I may mention, we'll go more in depth on Wednesday. Just quick nuggets and quick thoughts, as I talked about with Hoppe. Storylines, can't wait for Kyrie to be back in Boston and see how many times they're going to boo him because they're an intense fan base. But there's no way, Richard, they're going to last all game as many times as he touches the ball booing him, right? But if there's a fan base that's crazy enough that has the stamina to boo that much, I guess it would be Boston that I would pick that. I think that's going to be that's going to be a great storyline heading into it. And then look at Doncic. The dude looked at the Minnesota fan that called him a crybaby. He needed that. It was like Michael Jordan. He looks in the mirror and he said on The Last Dance, and I was offended by that. I took that personally. That's Luka. Anytime a fan says something to him, someone did the crybaby face towards him, and every time he hit a shot, he looked at him. When he had that and one and Snoop Dogg's down there and you see him mouthing on NBA on TNT, he says, that guy's cold, man. Luka's yelling, crybaby what, MF? Like the dude's cold. He's a trash talker. It's everything I love about the NBA and I love about basketball and love watching it. Kyrie, too, he's going to be ready to be antsy to go at it. I can't wait, Richard. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think there's two things. One, you can't tell me that Boston has the best matchups for Kyrie and Luka when we just said Minnesota had the best defense in the NBA and they had no option.
That's
now,
true.
maybe Boston makes better, has a better game plan and maybe doubling Luka and putting either White or Drew or mixing it up so you don't have to leave him, double Luka and make Lively, Gafford, Derek Jones, PJ, any of them beat you because you feel like you got enough guys to slow down Kyrie and you double Luka, get the ball out of his hands. Maybe that's what they do. I don't think there is really an option the way these guys are hitting shots at an incredible feat, these tough shots. But you can't tell me they match up better because I thought that was the Minnesota Timberwolves. So maybe there isn't a matchup for this. You had great analysis about it. I think Porzingis has to be at least 75, 80% healthy for them to even have a chance because if they got no rim protection, Luka and Kyrie are going to have a field day. And I feel like those shooters right now, they're hitting at a all-time clip. Lively. I mean, PJ Washington. Now you got Maxi Kleber. You got Derek Jones. These guys are shooting 40% in the playoffs from three. That's you have that from your role players on top of Kyrie and Luka averaging 25 and 30 points a game. And then you got your two centers combining for 25 and 15. That's hard to beat, man. And they're the hottest team. What are you leaning towards, Richard?
I'm actually leaning toward Dallas in 7. I think that they are going to get it done because they have the best closers in the game of basketball. And I think that Boston is going to show their physicality like they did against the Golden State Warriors in 2022. But we got to remember, this is a different Boston team from that team that had Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Grant Williams. They have Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. I forgot to mention him. Drew Holiday is a very good two-way guard player. When the game's on the line and you put the ball in your best player's hand, I want to see that matchup. Drew Holiday guarding Kyrie or guarding Luka. And we saw him pick the Indiana player's pocket and when the game was on the line. I mean, I think that Boston has got some players that have that finals experience. I think finals experience is very important. But they have a different coach. They had Ime Udoka in 2022. They have Joseph Mazzulla, and he's the youngest coach.
Stop. I got it.
All right.
Rich.
That's my analyst. That's my hot take.
No. I don't want you to stop your analyst, too. It's Ime Udoka. You correct me, and I got to help you out.
Okay.
And Joe Mazzulla. So
Joe Mazzulla.
All right. How about this? Who's got the coaching advantage in this series? Do you give it to Joe Mazzulla or do you give it to Jason Kidd? Neither have been to an NBA Finals. I think Kidd has got more coaching experience, and honestly, I think he's done the better job against top-level talent and top-level competition this year. Who you leaning? Is it Kidd or is it Mazzulla?
I think Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd is a very special coach because even though he, as a coach, he hasn't made a finals appearance. He's made a finals appearance twice as a player in 2003 And in 04 and in 05, or no, 02 and 03.
02, yeah, 02, 03.
Yeah, when they took on the Lakers in 02 and then they took on San Antonio in 03.
Yep.
And you got to remember, Jason Kidd is one of the smartest point guard in the history of the game, and that is converted over to coaching. And I think that Dallas does have a coaching advantage with Jason Kidd.
I'm leaning same thing with you. So coaching advantage is Jason Kidd. I think the best player is Luka Doncic. I think the second best player is Tatum. And I'd say the third best player is a tie between Kyrie and Jalen. My goodness, Jalen Brown. So the top four guys, you got two for each team in the top four guys. This is where it stands out differently now, is because the next, I would say at least the next three, if Porzingis is healthy, is Porzingis, the Holiday, and White. Then I had Gafford, Washington, and Lively. And then I'd had Horford. So in the 10, there's honestly, both of them have about 4 or 5 of the 10 best players in the series. It's fairly even in that aspect. I think Boston's a little bit more top heavy because out of the top 6 players, they have 4 of them. And out of the top 7, they have 5. But aside from that, I do like how these two teams match up. And it's going to be an intriguing matchup. And like I said, anytime in Boston, now you got that villain, because most people hate Boston fans, or you got the villain on Luka and Kyrie. I mean, this is what the NBA wants, especially now with this big mega deal that's going to be happening. Last thing I did want to make mention, I'm sad, man, because I really don't want the NBA on TNT to go away. Why is this guy a buffoon? Let me look him up. I didn't even do him the justice of looking him up. I just called him a buffoon. Now I'm trying to look up the CEO of. Well, Richard, while I'm looking that up, we're talking. If maybe you can find it, the CEO that messed up the mega deal for NBA on TNT. I cannot think of his name right now. He works for Turner Broadcasting, and this is excellent broadcasting right now. As us talking about this. As we do right now. I think it's John Martin. I don't know who it is that messed it up. I had his name and now I can't find it. They're saying John Martin on there. Either way, this guy messed up what was the best pregame.
I got it, Thrift.
Yeah.
Luis Silberwasser,
okay,
chairman and CEO of TNT Sports.
Okay, this guy and there's another guy too that's in charge of all of Turner Broadcasting that owns TBS, part of CBS, all that. This guy did not want to and walked away from a deal within the NBA. They allowed them first rights, and now you're going to lose the best, I think, pregame, postgame, halftime show, because a lot of it's just poop. I don't like the NBA on ESPN and ABC. There's 6 people trying to talk. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's just Stephen A. Smith yelling, and then every other guy's got one sentence apiece. Same thing. I don't like the NFL on CBS or the NFL on Fox. I don't like their pregame shows. There's too many people. You don't get enough time to talk. I mean, it's not funny. It's not entertaining. That is what the NBA on TNT is. I don't go and watch it for insight. Come on, Rich. I'm watching to be entertained. Charles Barkley, Shaq, being funny. And you're losing that. You're going to lose that. I could handle, losing Coach K and Nick Saban, but now you're taking away the only pregame and postgame show that I ever liked. And now it's about to be gone too. It's just changing the landscape of the world we live in, man. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's looking like live stream on Peacock and NBC and Amazon. They're all going to be in it, of course, with ESPN because they got the finals. And it looks like NBA on TNT is going to be gone. So
Thrift,
that is very sad.
Thrift, when I was a kid, the NFC lost the rights to Fox. I mean, CBS lost the rights to the NFC because the AFC was on NBC. CBS had the NFC. They lost the rights to Fox in '94, and the number one broadcast team was Madden and Summerall, and they decided to go over to Fox. But we've seen this before in broadcasting. I mean, I would not be shocked if these four end up staying together and doing a show on, syndicated, independent. I mean, we can't get rid of this. This has been absolutely phenomenal broadcasting with these four, but we have seen it before where broadcasters will get out of their contract and go to other networks.
Well, maybe this happens. I know Ernie Johnson didn't want to work for another company. He
doesn't want to leave TNT because he does baseball.
Yeah, and he works for Turner Broadcasting. This on TBS. But anyway, that's just one of the sad things that we may be losing now that the conference finals is over, and I'm going to miss those guys. We'll see in the ever-changing landscape, especially with the media rights and the TV rights and everything else. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting offseason for the NBA with the TV rights. You got everything that's happening with free agents, where people are going to land. Then you got the NBA draft with the Hawks. I'm intrigued for sure, Richard. We'll give our picks on Wednesday. I'm leaning towards Dallas. I know Richard's leaning towards Dallas, but he likes Boston. We'll give those picks on Wednesday. We'll have a special guest on, try to get someone from the Columbus United team. And Richard, maybe, just maybe, we may get on another guest as well. Wednesday night, we got the Swoosh Summer League. We got Russell County, Carver, and Shaw will all be on there. The games are laid back, but we want to still live stream and promote talent around there, so we can't wait. TJ Woodson making his debut with the Carver Tigers tonight. He'll be there on Wednesday. Looking forward with him and Montgomery, how they going to coexist. Cannot wait to talk NBA, high school basketball leading up to the season. We got high school football coming up. A lot in store for you on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Richard Holdridge, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
One final thought. Congratulations to Troup County's Ryan Bliss for getting his first major league hit with the Seattle Mariners a couple nights ago.
I saw that. Kevin Elkelberry's awesome. We got to have him on. Maybe he's our next special guest. We got to have Kevin Elkelberry on. I know he's been on Sports Beat. We got to get him on the show. From Richard Holdridge, I'm Barringer saying thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor. We will see you Wednesday, 6 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock is a Swoosh League happening, Summer League here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.